Hey there, and welcome. I'm the Power Within, and this is our podcast series, a space where we slow down, reflect, and dive deep into the strength that lives inside us all. The sorrows of the past are now just funny stories. That year, I was 12. I hid in a small corner, sobbing, because I had lost the bicycle my parents had saved up for so long to buy me. My hair was wet, sticking to my face. I ran back and forth helplessly in the rain, running until my legs were numb, hoping to find the bike that was right there just 5 minutes ago. A part of me was curious, and another part was terrified. I was angry at whoever took it. How could they steal my bike? Why didn't they take the bike of that classmate I didn't like instead? I was angry at myself for being careless, for not taking better care of it. And I was scared of being scolded, scared of getting hit by my dad, scared of making my mom cry. Scared that my parents would have to work even harder to earn money. I searched and searched in vain. At that moment, I cried so hard. I thought my life was miserable, like my whole world was collapsing. But now, as I sit here telling this story, I can't help but laugh. The feeling of guilt for making my parents struggle is still there. My nose still stings a little when I think about it. But the pain, the anger, and the fear? They're long gone. That year, I was 15. I hid in the bathroom and cried again. My best friend, the one I thought was like a part of me, had gone behind my back and spread nasty rumors about me. My heart clenched in pain. If it had been someone who hated me from the start, maybe it would have been easier to accept. But hearing people gossip about me, knowing the words came from the very person who had been by my side for years, that was something else. My chest hurt so much I could hardly breathe. It felt like something inside me was shattering into tiny pieces. Why? Why would someone betray years of friendship just to get a little attention? I stopped eating. Stopped studying. I had no energy for anything. The sadness engulfed me. But now, as I sit here telling this story, I can't help but laugh. We haven't spoken since then. To this day, I still wonder why she did that. But in the end, I chose to let it go. There was no point in explanations. The storm that once raged inside me has long since faded. Now, my heart is as calm as a still lake. When I recall that memory, it's just like a gentle ripple on the surface of the water. And then, it disappears. That year, I was 17. Every night, I cried because I couldn't communicate with my parents. Every time I spoke, I got scolded. The harsh words from the people I loved broke me. More than once, I wanted to run away. More than once, I wanted to disappear from this world. That year, I studied through my tears. My notebook was smudged with ink and tear stains. I tried so hard, staying up all night, cramming until my head spun. But no matter how much I studied, my grades stayed low. And then, more scolding. I felt stupid. Worthless. I felt like no matter what I did, I would never be enough. I felt trapped. No recognition. No understanding. I was just extra baggage in the house. A failure. But now, as I sit here telling this story, I can't help but laugh. Back then, I studied like crazy, pushing myself to the limit, and still ended up at the bottom of the class. My friends laughed so hard when they remembered it. Later, when my mom and I casually brought it up, she laughed too. I remember, she said. Every time I said something, you would argue right back. I knew studying was stressful, but seeing your grumpy little face just made my blood boil. Honestly, after every scolding, I felt bad for you. But every time you gave me attitude, my instincts just told me to scold you even more. Her daughter, me, just scratched her head, wondering why on earth she had been so moody back then. That year, I was 17. I learned what it meant to have a crush. To secretly admire someone. Their smile could make my world shine, and their sadness could pull my heart into a deep, unexplainable gloom. And because my emotions were tied to theirs, the rejection message I received that night felt like a deep, painful wound cutting through my heart, through my soul. I hid under my blanket, crying silently. I blamed myself, blamed my plain face, blamed how useless I was, blamed how I had nothing special to offer. I cried until my eyes were swollen red. All I could think about was why didn't they choose me? But now, as I sit here telling this story, I can't help but laugh. First love, so intense, so dramatic. But at least I had the courage to confess my feelings. Sure, my reaction back then might have been over the top. But looking back, I see how much I've grown. Someone rejecting me, that was their choice. Their decision, made after their own thoughts, experiences, and feelings. One person not choosing me didn't mean the whole world would reject me forever. Back then, it hurt. But now? That pain is nothing. Because really, no one stays heartbroken forever. Then, a friend of mine spoke up. That year, my mom passed away. And I thought. A few days later, I just followed my mother. Both my father and mother were gone. All the savings my grandparents had managed to put together weren't much. Not to mention the debts they had taken on, just so I could go to school. At the funeral, I didn't feel anything. Not sadness, not grief. All I could think about was, how do I die too? But that night, when I came home, I saw my grandmother, lying there, holding my little sister, crying. Downstairs, the burnt smell of soup filled the house. If I hadn't come back in time, the fire could have been worse. I don't know if it was my grandmother's sobs, or that burnt smell. But something pulled me back. I couldn't die. I just couldn't. How could I leave them? But my life felt so miserable. So miserable that I wondered, was there anyone in this world worse off than me? Could there be a bottom deeper than this? Something inside me, something I couldn't describe, kept rising, filling my chest. If it weren't for my grandmother and my little sister that night, I wouldn't be sitting here telling this story. Some pain feels like the limit of what we can endure. But in the grand scheme of things, it's nothing compared to the countless other sorrows in this world. My friends sat around me. No one said a word. The usual teasing, the laughter, had all faded. Then, one of them quickly changed the subject. Tried to lighten the mood. Well, I guess we have that burnt soup to thank for snapping you out of it. They chuckled. I mean, your nose is super sensitive to strange smells. The truth is, after graduation, we worried about you the most. Each of us had our own lives. New families. Busy jobs. Less time for each other. But somehow, you made it. That little girl we used to know. The one who always wore bracelets, watches, and long sleeves. Not for fashion, but to hide the scars on her arms. Now, there are no new scars. Only old ones. Faded. And around you, not just us, your friends, but the love of your husband, and the family you built together. The pain of those years. Now just stories we can laugh about. Does growing up make pain feel smaller? Maybe. But not entirely. There are many reasons. Psychology. Neuroscience. For one, pain from the past doesn't feel as terrifying anymore. Maybe because our brains mature. The part of the brain responsible for decision-making, reasoning, and emotional control. It's fully developed now. So we process emotions better. We see the past from a different angle. With less intensity. And as we grow, we experience more. More challenges. More pain. And that variety, it broadens our perspective. Deepens our understanding of life. So when we weigh past pain against present struggles, we might just smile. Our minds adapt. Heal. This process, it's called resilience. Over time, we learn to turn past wounds into lessons, into experiences that help us live better. There's also something called contextualization. It sounds complicated, but it's simple. When we go through pain, our brain takes notes. It learns from the context. It builds defenses. So next time, it won't hurt as much. And memory? Memory is not a perfect copy. Every time we recall the past, it changes. The emotions tied to it, they fade. That's why past pain becomes lighter over time. Another reason? Priorities change. What once hurt us deeply might not even matter anymore. And we focus on different things, new things. That's why childhood pain from when we were young and lost, feels so small now. That doesn't mean the pain wasn't real. It was. But I just want you to know, when the storm passes, you won't remember exactly how you survived. You won't recall how you held on, or how you managed to keep going. You might not even be sure if the storm truly ended. But one thing is certain. The person who walks out of that storm will never be the same person who first stepped into it. The storm takes away things you once thought were precious. But you survived. And you don't even remember how. It was instinct. Your body fighting to keep you alive. And when it's over, you're no longer who you used to be. And one day, you'll sit down, look back at it all, and smile. Because you made it. Because you survived.